welcome to the Innovation Cafe. For the people that are rewatching this, we just had a talk by Peter and we're just going into the Q&A and discussion session now. Peter, thanks for your talk. You mentioned a discussion point that you wanted to discuss with our other audience here. Could you maybe repeat that?
Yes. So the question I stated was as following. I had the luck while I was starting my career as an engineer that there were experienced colleagues and there was a team which took me by the hand and learned me how to work actually, because you think you know how to work while you're at school, but you discover you have to learn a lot. I had colleagues from the generation before me, which all found their job within technology, and the young people which we guide at our startup InnAut, which are exactly the same persons, have the same skills, have the same level of skills. They're sitting at home. They don't get a job, and they don't find their way into engineering or other forms of technology within the companies. And the question I have is there something changed, or do we look in a different way to talent? So that's something I want to discuss with you, and I'm really curious what your opinion is about that and experience.
Can I just ask, like, a specification? You're talking about people at home. I mean, InnAut is specifically focused on people on the spectrum of autism. Are you talking about specifically these people or in general?
That's an interesting question, because when you look at our website, we clearly state that InnAut is there for young people with autism or who recognize themselves on the autism spectrum. And that's something we did by purpose, because in the beginning we didn't have that. And it was not clear for companies, it was not clear for people. And I can remember in 1 week, I used the word autism, and suddenly the whole world knew what we were doing. We were finding it out ourselves, so we didn't know it yet. So for me, it's difficult to say, and that's also what we tell our young people, you don't have to have autism. Yeah. It's more broad, because we also have young people, I think, maybe they have a slight form of autism, or maybe they have something else. And that's also something we tell our young people, actually, we don't care what you have. It's about what you do have, what your talent is. And if you are willing to find out what your talent is, and you like technology, because we're a technology-based company, then you're welcome. And then together we're gonna find out where your future lays within the technology. So it's more broad than only autism.
Okay, great, thanks.
I think it's a lot about trust, or the lack thereof, maybe. So that this is finally what it comes down to, huh? Whether you hire someone or not. Do you trust that person to contribute in the way you expect, or to become part of the team? And today I think when we talk about hiring, there are of course economical thresholds and also legal thresholds that have to be overcome. So I remember my father once tried to hire a blind person, and that turned out to be horrendously difficult because many liability questions came up. So that there might be this side, huh? But independent of that, if we leave that aside, I think it's about trust. And that, of course, then is related to the cliche or idea we have about people who are on the autistic spectrum, which is very broad.
It's a spectrum, so
yes.
automatically makes it really broad. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, exactly. But I mean, there might be people that might not. I mean, I don't even know can you be, are you officially on the spectrum? Like, is there like, I don't want to.
There are tests. There are
Yeah,
tests.
That's definitely
to say that, right? But I mean, there's also people that just have what you're saying. There's qualities that they can relate to. So I mean, they
I
might
would even
know.
also, I know people that have even a positive cliche, yeah, which is also not true. Yeah? So they idealized and these, you know, maybe mechanical abilities or being very skilled in things related to math or yeah, patterns. Yeah, and that's also not true. The world is not that simple.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about one of my old team leaders, which for sure I think if any test he will take, there will be a positive outcome from autism. But he's one of the best team leaders I ever had, and we had a really good working together. Once we found out our qualities, and he was analytically so good that he could read a company, a technology process within a factory, for instance. He could read it, but he needed some time for that. And there where I came in, so I had the small talk with the director, and I asked some questions, and we looked at some certain points. And then at a certain moment, and in the beginning he told me, and after a while I felt, oh, he knows where the exact critical point is. And then we had an answer, and that's about trust, what you said, and we completely trusted each other in working together.
Yeah.
But starting with that, there's no guarantee that, that is the outcome of it.
But you never have that guarantee, huh?
Yeah,
Life
indeed,
is about
yes.
So
Yeah.
that's not. You have that also with a non-autistic person, a risk that it's not working, and I mean this is what defines a good leader, or maybe also a good team. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and you have to find out how to integrate a person in a team. Huh? So you have to adopt the environment, and it's then maybe, so when we look at the autistic spectrum, it's not always that extreme. So there's maybe a weaker form, yeah? And then it's just about nuances. So it's maybe you have to do things that are not so much the convention we are used to prepare work environment for that person.
But I think I think it also has to do a lot with like prejudices that people have about other people and a lack of education perhaps in it, because I mean there's a lot of people that think autism and there's this one thing that pops up or this one type of person in their head. Well, in real time, like these people are everywhere and you might not even realize, like from some people, that they are on the spectrum in some way. And people have just like these clear images in their head of like, this is what this type of person is, therefore we don't want them in our company because this, or it could cause these problems, not looking at the opportunities that it could give as well if you rethink a little bit.
It reminds me of a director of a quite a big company, technical company, and he came to me from day one. He is looking at InnAut like, oh, it's a really interesting place. And in a certain moment he told me, he said, do you know what's the reason why I come at your during the days that you work with young people? I said, you like it or don't know? And he told me, he said, having a diploma of a HBO or WO or any school is not a guarantee for me that I hire somebody with good skills or good qualities. He said, and what I found out at InnAut is the moment you make a coupling between a young person and a company, the chance of success is way bigger than from somebody from some kind of school. And he said, and for him the difference was at the personal level, the connection you make in a personal level between a young person and a company. Because on paper it can look really good, but there are so many factors which are really important to have a good connection.
So this connection can sorry for entering late, but this connection, is it then based on the kind of attitude, or are people reliable, more reliable than people coming just from university or applied science institute? Is that what he meant, or?
Partly, because now, if you have a young person which from the age of now, I think nowadays 4 years it's already starting. But if you have heard day in and day out that you're a disability or you have a challenge, you're gonna start believing it. So the moment you discover that you have a huge talent and there's a company which is happy with that, our experience is those young people, they the most reliable workers you can imagine. So that's part of the answer, I think. But the other part, and I think that's an even bigger part, is it's really important that the way you work or the way you look at problems is for everybody different, but also for every company different. So what you see in practice is that some people are better in a big company with procedures and way of working, but other young people are more creative and they can't handle the procedures. One of the things they say about autism is, oh, you have to be really clear and have procedures in working. Our experience with that is, yeah, for some it works, but for some it completely doesn't work. And I always say to government, so we talk a lot with governments, and I always say on paper there are possibly around 300 matches which we can make with companies, but in practice only 2 of those matches are feasible, are durable, because of all kind of extra items which play a role.
Is it easier for larger companies to fulfill your requirements? Do you see a trend there? Or do you also...
It's more difficult.
Smaller companies?
The bigger companies are more difficult. And the reason for what I experience is normally you have a HR department between you and the workplace. And the diplomas is the first thing they look at, but also on personal level, I really want to work together with the team leader or the group leader or the direct colleagues, because what I see happening is they meet each other. We always say, join a day at InnAut and just drop by, get a cup of coffee and tell our young people what you're doing. And at that moment, there is already a connection. So the team leader tells me, oh, you have an engineer, or you have a test engineer, or whatever. And I think that's a more personal connection. Somebody fits in your team or not.
Yeah. So maybe that's the future of HR in general. Entities like InnAut that mentor and build a relationship, so that it's not just based on a diploma. And yeah, obviously the way our education system is going, diplomas are not worth that much anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And also but maybe for the other, I have an idea about that. For me personal, as an engineer, I always enjoyed working with a student or with somebody who just started at our company. Because first of all, I had the experience myself that it's really nice to have an experienced one looking over your shoulder, but also to make a secure environment where somebody feels free to discover what their effort in the team is.
Mhm.
So if you're talking about the future of HR, I think the role of a team leader or a group leader is way bigger for young talent than at the moment, and that's of course company dependent. But I think there's a bigger role for engineers in all engineers actually and all people involved in technology.
Mm-hmm. What's your experience with how it is in the long term? Because flexibility in a lot of cases is important. I can imagine if your experience is it fits better with small companies. Small companies also have to reorganize themselves quite often. What is the influence in this perspective?
Okay, so I think it also fits big companies. Only the starting our working relationship is more difficult. I found out. Um, um, so let me take you one step before that, and that's the way young people enter InnAut. Because I always say I'm not a social worker. I'm just an engineer. I studied applied physics. I learned how to operate a milling machine and stuff. So I went quite blunt into this adventure called InnAut, and every day I bump my head, especially around how we guide young people in the Netherlands, because we have excellent systems and taking a lot of care, but and I always take the example of a young guy or girl entering InnAut, and the first thing I hear from them is, oh yeah, I have problems with education and work, and yeah, actually I can only work in a quiet environment, and actually there also has to be green carpet on the ground, and a purple curtains. Around 10 o'clock, I need some green tea. At 11, a cup of coffee. I need classical music on the background. No direct light, and yeah, I don't want to sit in a big room. And etc. 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 I'm making it bigger than it is, but what happens is we're taking such good care for young people that we're taking away all the risks. But growing up and finding your place in the world means you have to discover who you are, but also what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And that's really important, you have to learn to communicate that with your environment. And for me personally, means if I'm sitting next to a window at the ground level and persons walking by between me and the sunlight, so you got those flashes, I go crazy. I can't work with that. In practice, I found out that young people, only from the 20 items they mention, in real life, only 2 or maybe 3 are really viable. And the rest are only precautions which are not necessary. So we don't make them, which is the English word, self-redent. So, and that's important. So the first thing we learn to them is if something does not work for you, you say it, you communicate, you in that way, you tell your team and your colleagues, oh, this doesn't work, but they didn't learn that. And so looking towards small companies or big companies and changes, because I think big companies also quite some changes and team changes happen. The moment somebody has learned to talk about this, it becomes way more easier. At the same time, and that's the philosophy of InnAut, we never let go of the people who graduate or go to place from InnOut. And that doesn't mean that we weekly basis visit them. I love to, because I like technical companies and I really want to look into clean rooms and at robots and stuff, but we don't have the time for it. But at the moment that the team leader or the group leader thinks, ooh, something is happening, or it's a conflict, or a reorganization, or maybe something private at home. At the same for the young guy or girl, they always can call us, and we're always having people available to coach and to guide. But that's not different from normal employees, because the amount of coaching and guiding which was available for me as an engineer was enormous. So I think the combination between they have to learn how to communicate what's working for them and not, and the combination of some guidance. Everybody needs some guidance, whether it's from your team leader or from a coach. Everybody can needs that now and then.
Would you say like helping them communicate is like the main thing that you do at InnOut, or is there
you discovered our secret?
Yeah, I mean,
now everybody can do it.
I mean, but yeah. What I'm thinking is like there might be differences there than what you would normally do. Can you maybe explain a little bit on how, for example, that works? Like how do you guys work with these people, and can you tell a little bit about the process that goes into it?
Yeah. So you point out the most important thing, because sometimes I tell a director of a company which visits us or so, that it's not about technology. And then they look at me like, oh, it's important. And yeah, I know. But they're so driven, the young people at InnOut, that most of the time we have to slow them down. Like, take a break, relax, because, and that's, we used to live in a society where you went to school to get information, but that's past. It doesn't exist anymore. Information you have here. All the information you need. The most difficult physical laws are within 10 seconds, you have them. It's more about how do you use the information and what's reliable and not. So the young people we have often are really driven. Once they are passionate about something, they start researching and they have information and they go. So that's something, we only offer a really nice environment, and that's in the Spark Makerzone in Den Bosch, which is a 1,000 square meter makerzone, full of, they have a metal printer, they have a 3.5 meter ABB robot arm, and it's an open workplace where you can go and you can use the machines. And we also work there with our young people. So we only invite them to experience different kinds of technology. But the main thing is that they find out who they are and where their talent is. And in that way, they doing projects, doing assignments for companies together, they learn, I'm more this kind of person, so I'm a specialist, or and they're our guidance. So we learn them, how does communication work, and how do you communicate with a colleague? Because you can say to your colleague, I think this, and then you walk away, but it's not communication. It's communication. You have to check whether your colleague has understand that. And our way of working with that is really practical. So we do projects, we do assignments. It can be an assignment alone, but it can also be a project together with teammates, with companies. And in that way, we learn how to work. And that's, I think, really important, because we have the expectation that you know how to work when you finish a school, but it only starts there.
there's a lot more than the theory that you learn in school going on, and it's also a lot of social skills. Maybe those are more important than the actual, what you're saying, all of the information is nowadays in your phone. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. And yeah, social skills are not specifically anything that you learn in school. So I can imagine, especially for people that are on the spectrum in some way, or that have these, like that, have some characteristics of autism, I can imagine that they might not as easily pick up on these things.
Yeah, and then it's the question for a company. So, but that's my personal experience. I worked in a team, old CFT team from Philips, and we did quite some challenging assignments for instance, also for ASMA. When I look back, it's the most brilliant solutions. So the big breakthroughs in developing machines or modules came from those people, those colleagues, which are quite similar to the young people we now have. And why and that's what I think happened, is they looked at a different way to a problem which a lot of people already looked at, and they looked on a different way, and while we were brainstorming, they said, oh, maybe this will work, or maybe this will work, and there came the brilliant solutions. And I think that's one of the major reasons for a company of willing to embrace young people drop out the system, drop out school, because they look different in a way to problems we all look at. And then when you look at a different way, you also see different solutions.
Are there some more questions from you guys?
We know everything now, so we have no questions.
We are not getting any more questions from you, Aaron. You know everything.
No question. Everything has been said. Now, one thing that I would of course find interesting is to maybe extend your domain from technology also to the design world. So you are at Kaserne, at the design hub of Eindhoven. So that is a topic that I'm also personally very interested in, and I think there are actually many opportunities.
Yes. So that's nice to share with you. We had a student, or one of our young people. Actually, we don't have a name for them yet. That was a young guy. He's still with InnAut, and at a certain moment, one of the first assignments they get when they start at us, we asked them to design a lamp. Just a little LED light, and we have some examples, and we use laser cutters and 3D printers and some electronics and stuff. And he decided that he was going to design the base of the lamp for a 3D printer. So already, he didn't realize that, but while designing it, he was already incorporating all the manufacturing technology. Mm-hmm. So in the end, he had a base which was made of 5 parts, and all the electronics and lights, LEDs are within that base. It would slide in together and stuff. And I was looking at his design, and I said, "Oh, it looks nice." And, yeah, just print it. Because from my experience is you design something, and although it's meant to fit together, normally never fits. So he printed it out, and it all fitted. So I was like, what? And at that moment, the director of CADMES, which is the company who resells SolidWorks, he was also there. And the young guy was showing his parts, like, oh, it fits like this, fits like that. And he said, oh yeah, by the way, I printed it without using any support. And the director was laughing like, yeah, you just switched out the option support. I said, no, I designed it in a way that I don't need to use support because it's quicker, it's cheaper, And it's
Yeah.
more beautiful because you don't have to rework all the services. And then the director, he felt he didn't say anything, and suddenly he said, we're already working for months on a training to learn engineers how to design for 3D printing. And he said, yeah, normal, you just do that. And at that moment was like, so for the young guy, it was a discovery, like it's not normal that you design something which just comes out of 3D printer. And the director who stand there, he said like, oh, you really have technical talents there. So yeah, for sure we're gonna, and that's in the future, that's one of our wishes. We want to extend the knowledge we find out with and the experience with these young people to other kinds of industries.
And you can call them maybe Padawans if you have no other.
For sure. The number 42 is always a lot of times dropping by. So, oh, that's young Padawans. I'm sure they like it.
Well, have you also spoken with employment agencies to share ideas, thoughts, views?
Actually, one of the employed agencies, which is a new one starting up, they listed us as alternative talent mine because they saw so much talent walking around. And I want to be careful by, I don't want to put them in a situation where they go from company to company to company.
No.
But if there is like a willing for a long-term working relationship, yes, it's some good companies to work together with.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. Yeah, that's their business, their day-to-day business. So yeah, if you could share thoughts or experiences, or even perhaps a partnership, indeed, then could be a win-win there.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions? Because we're running out of time. If not, we have time for one more.
Do you have somebody you can tweak Zoom so we don't run out of time?
I will put it in the group then next Monday.
Okay.
All right. Well, then I want to start closing up. Peter, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks everyone for joining the discussion and the talk. Peter, if anyone is recognizing themselves in your story and they want to look out for you, they can find you on the website, www.innout.nl, is it?
NL and com both are working.
Okay,
so,
well, there you
yes,
go. Well, there you go. And for the other people, we really hope to see you again next week. And for now, I want to wish everyone a good evening.
Thank you all.
You too.
Thank you.